Hi, friends. Welcome back to Indistinct Chatter. I'm Eliza, and today I'm doing something a little different. I feel like I've been saying that the last few episodes, but to be honest, I wasn't really sure what to talk about this week. Next week, I have a theory that I want to discuss, and I was going to do it this week, but I need to finish reading Tender is the Flesh first, and I'm only like a quarter of the way through. So keep that in your mind. I wonder if you can guess the theory or theories that I'll be discussing next week. Anyway, so today I have a little story for you first. And let's just say I'm still riding the adrenaline high from my camping trip. All right. So I've already told this story to a couple of friends. So, friends, if you're listening, sorry you have to hear this again. If you haven't heard this, and especially if you don't really know me, you're going to get a little insight as to how I tell a typical story. I mean, I guess like the last couple of episodes, you maybe got the gist, kind of. But basically, I can't just tell a story straight up. Like, I got to set the scene, I got to set the vibes. It's a whole thing that, honestly, a story that could take 5 minutes, I'll stretch it out to 20 minutes, maybe longer. Like, don't test me. So, let's get into my story. Let's go back to 2015. I'm just kidding. But I do have a little backstory. So, Cole and I recently started dispersed camping. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure if what we do is considered dispersed camping. Like, we're not backwoods camping, but we're not camping at regular campsites. So there's no camp host. There's usually absolutely no cell service. There's no facilities of any kind, so no bathrooms. It requires you to drive off road to get to the camping spots. And then some of the spots require a little hike as well. But so far, we've only done this twice, and both of our spots have been easy-ish to drive to. I don't know if like a regular car, like I don't know, like a Prius, I don't know if they'll get you there, but we've got a 4Runner. It's certainly not a smooth ride, but it is what it is. And at the end of your little driveway or your walkway to your spot, there is usually a little sign, has a number and then a little tent logo, and that's how you know that you can camp back there. Otherwise, a lot of times it'll say like no camping. And I don't actually know if the area has a campground name or anything. It's just usually on BLM land, I think, sometimes maybe national forest or parkland. I don't really know. I'm new to this sort of camping. All right. I'm used to just pitching a tent at a campground. Also, our sites that we've gone to, they are usually cleared out. There's usually a fire pit, but with the fire ban, obviously we can't have a fire, but we bring our little camp stove, so it's not a big deal. There's also no trash, no bear box, no water. It's usually just a cleared out area that is somewhat-ish flat. And if you're lucky, there's a little fire pit. And when you camp at a regular campground, there's usually other campers either within sight or at least earshot. And sometimes your spot is part of a walking trail. So you're likely going to come across other people. When you're dispersed camping, it's less likely that people will come around your campsite unless you're camping along a trail. And that is important context for the story because you'll see. So, on Thursday, we decided to head to Keystone and try to find a camping spot. And oh yeah, so these are first come first serve, and best of all, they're free. So, we're trying to take advantage of it. So, right after work, we headed out in hopes that we'd be able to get a spot off Peru Creek Road. I think that's how they pronounce it. It's spelled like Peru, but Colorado's kind of crazy with their pronunciation, so it could be Peru. I don't know. But it's in the White River National Forest. And in general, this is a pretty accessible area. I mean, it's still off-road. So we were able to snag the last site. So we were at number 30. It's at the way into the trail. Anything after that is just kind of for hiking or off-roading. And our spot required a pretty deep dip off the road. Like the driveway was kind of like a little roller coaster. And once you get down that little dip, it's back in the trees a little bit along the willow bush. And on the other side of the willow bush, there's a clearing with views of the mountains, and also a huge power line, but whatever. And then past the opening is more woods with a creek. It's really beautiful. It's great. We're covered by the trees, which comes in handy because after dinner, it starts to sprinkle. And I'm able to sometimes connect to satellite on my phone to my parents. It's something that I like to do so that they know where we are if anything happens. And so, like last time that we camped and dispersed camping, I didn't really have service, but I could sometimes connect to satellite and we saw smoke. So it's great to know that I can text them and have them look it up and be like, hey, are we good? Or like, how far away is the fire? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I text them, I let them know where we're at. We go to sleep. I do faintly hear some gruffing, but I can't tell for certain if I'm imagining it or what. So I just tell myself it's probably a car in the distance because honestly, I look to Holden, my dog, a lot and he doesn't react to it. So I just assume it's nothing and I go to sleep. I wake up super early. I had gotten very little sleep, but life's good. We headed into town for some coffee. I had a virtual meeting and I needed service, so I'll use any excuse to get coffee somewhere. And then after the meeting, we walk around Dillon until it gets too hot, and then we decide to head back to our site to escape the heat. Sure enough, as soon as we pull up, it starts sprinkling, so we make lunch, and then I let Cole know that I don't wanna go on a hike, especially in the rain, so I let him know that I think I'm just gonna hang out, maybe go in the tent and read my book. Secretly, I was kind of maybe wanting to sneak a little bit of a nap. He decides that he's gonna go off-roading and explore the abandoned mines a little bit. Um, Cole doesn't really like to hang out and just, like, sit still, and we've been kinda doing that a lot lately. So, yeah, he's got exploring to do. And Holden hates car rides as it is. He gets really anxious. So we just decide to have him stay with me and just chill in the tent. You know, just a little mommy and son bonding, cuddling in the tent. It's thundering. Ooh, I'm stoked. I'm so excited. Cole, then he stacks all of our kitchen and food supplies under our Coleman sunshade thing, which it used to be more waterproof. And probably when it was new, I would have just hung out under that. But it is not waterproof at all anymore. Everything under it gets soaked. It doesn't matter where you put it. So, whatever. He heads off. Holden and I are chilling in the tent. Surprisingly, he's very chill during storms, which I didn't think that he would be because he gets really nervous if we hear gunshots, if we hear fireworks, but he's relaxing. He's fine. I'm a little bit nervous because the lightning is very close. I can't see specifically where it is, but I can see the light flash and then I hear the thunder so loudly, like it's rumbling the ground and it happens like less than a second after you see the flash of light. So I'm assuming it's very close. I'm a little nervous, but I'm trying not to like freak myself out. So yeah, also, our tent. It's on the smaller side. I think it might be considered a three-person, I'm not sure, but it's like 4 feet tall, it's green and tan. It's a brighter green and a very light tan, but green and tan nonetheless. Sort of blends in, not really, I don't know, but it's not like a bright orange, you know what I'm saying? It has 1 door and no windows, and we always camp with the rain cover on top, so the inside door has a little screen, but with the rain cover on, you can't see outside. And then you also have to crawl out the door, and then you have to open the rain cover if you want to get out. And you have to like crawl in and out. About 15 minutes after Cole left, I hear a woman's voice, and I very faintly hear a man's voice. But with the rain, I can't quite hear for sure. And I instantly think to myself, oh no, Cole, he probably got a flat or something. And now we have to deal with this. And he got a ride back. And we're going to have to figure this out. So I wait, I keep reading. And then about, I don't know, maybe like 5 more minutes goes by. And I don't hear Cole coming to the tent, which it's raining. So I can't imagine he would just be hanging outside talking to a stranger this long, even just to be polite. So I open the interior door. I zip open the rain cover and I peek my head out and I see a man and a woman at our campsite. And They're kind of over by that Coleman sunshade thing where all of our gear is. And something about me, I am much more afraid of people than animals typically, especially in the woods, especially when all I have is some possibly expired pepper spray and no idea where the nearest person is to hear me call for help if I need it. Plus, as we learned from the last episode, the bystander effect, there's no guarantee anyone would do anything if I called for help. So I'm sitting there, I'm wondering what they're doing. The man sees me and he says to the woman, "There's someone in the tent." So then I think, oh no, they didn't see a car and they saw all of our stuff and thought no one was here and they're here to steal. So I try to listen to hear if I can hear things being moved or dug through, but I don't hear anything. I just stay still. I have my pepper spray in my hand. Holden's next to me. He's not really reacting. So I'm trying to tell myself there's no threat. And I'm just like hoping if they're there to steal, they'll just steal and leave and like not try to mess with me. So then a couple more minutes goes by and I peek my head out again. This time I see them leaving and I see 3 cars drive off. Okay, that's weird, but they're gone. No big deal. I am freaked out because there shouldn't be anyone at our campsite, right? I said that it's kind of, it's off the beaten path and there's no hiking trail. So it's weird that somebody would come down into our spot, but I'm not going to scare myself anymore. I have Holden and I'm good. Back to reading I go. Then, like, I don't know, a minute or 2 later, from behind my tent, which our tent is facing the road and the back of it's facing that willow brush in the open field, sort of. Willow brush, I don't know. So coming up from behind the tent, I hear, "Oh, oh." That's as good as I can get for the sound that I was hearing. And then I hear these giant, heavy footsteps. The ground is covered in pine and it's super soft. It's almost bouncy. So I can't hear for sure like how big it is. I just know that it's big, it's heavy. And I can tell that it's certainly not a human and it's not anything cute and cuddly. Like it's not a raccoon. Anyway, so I hear the gruffing, I hear the breathing, I hear the sniffing, and I hear the heavy steps. I slowly turn around and I see a shadow towering over the tent, but I can't make out what the shadow is for sure. And like I said, I can't see out of the tent. There's no windows. So I lean over and I pull Holden towards me and away from the wall of the tent. And I just lightly put my hand around his snout. So I always understood that when you see a bear, you are supposed to remain calm and firm and speak to it. "Hey, bear, go away, bear. I'm a human." Like you just speak human language calmly, firmly, deeply, and loudly. I was always told this will usually do the trick. So the bear knows that you're not prey or a predator and they'll likely bounce. But I can't see it. So I don't know for sure, like I don't know for sure if it's a bear. I don't know for sure if it's a moose. I don't know anything. And if it's a moose, I've never looked up what to do if you see a moose. Like I've seen videos of moose charging people and charging cars. So like, I don't know if I should make a sound or not. What if I spook it and then it tramples the tent? I also don't have a fast way out of the tent, nor do I have a knife or anything to cut myself out if I need to. So I hear it go to the brush and I hear crunching. So I tell myself it's for sure a moose. That's all it is, and it'll move on. I feel like I rarely see moose hang out too long in one spot. And as long as we're quiet, if it's here for a while, whatever, when Cole comes back, it'll go away. And Holden is staying pretty relaxed, which makes me think that whatever it is out there, it's not a predator. And as long as he stays quiet, we should be okay. I do know that moose often see dogs as threats, and that can trigger them to charge. But for all I know, the moose doesn't hear us over the rain and maybe doesn't even smell us. Maybe he's focused on the willow. So I hear it walk away, and then I kind of relax again. And I realize that the couple that was at our site, they were probably looking at the moose. So now I'm kind of annoyed that they didn't warn me. Like they saw me, but at the same time, how were they supposed to know that it was headed to my site? Maybe when they saw it, it was much farther away. Whatever. I'm still a little annoyed. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't you guys say anything? But whatever. So back to reading I go and just trying to relax. I'm just hoping that Cole comes back soon. And then from the back of the tent, again, I hear heavy footsteps all over again, but this time the sniffing is down low. And this time it really sounds like bear noises. So I am petrified. If I thought I was scared before, I'm even more scared, plus times 100,000,000. Like I'm shaking. Again, I can't see out of the tent, so I don't know the condition of the bear. I don't know if it has babies or not. And if it does, will me making any kind of noise make her more protective because she can't see us? Or will it scare her enough that she'll run off and take the babies with her? I don't know. So it sniffs around and then it trails off. All the while, I'm trying to connect to satellite so that I can reach Cole. And I'm texting him like 15, 20 times. It says that I'm connected to satellite. So I'm texting him, SOS, 911, come back, huge animal. I'm afraid. Hurry, please come back. There were people. Now there's big animals. I'm scared. Please, please, please come back. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I'm able to connect a call with him and I can hear him, but he can't hear me, of course. So then I decide I'm going to record. But every time I do, Cole's call comes through, but he can never hear me. The thing with satellite is you have to be outside. You have to have a clear view of the sky to connect to it. I'm in a freaking tent in the trees. So I don't know, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes goes by. I'm starting to relax again, but only a little bit because I can still very faintly hear heavy footsteps around the site, but I can't quite tell where they are. Sometimes they get a little bit closer, sometimes they drift farther. I can't even really see shadows because we're covered by the trees. The sun is behind the storm clouds, like 100% now. So it's not dark, but it's not like sunshine bright. It's kind of that weird light blue faded brightness. And unless the animal is like almost touching the tent, I can't see the shadow. So I just finally decide to, I don't know, something takes over me and I get the nerve to open the interior tent door so that I can grab my shoes in case we need to bolt. Bolt where? I don't know. I know you're not supposed to run typically, especially if there's a bear, but also I just wanted my shoes on. Like, I don't know, maybe for a sense of control. And it's raining enough that I figure if I open this really slowly, it won't hear anything. And my shoes are just outside the interior door. I have them under the rain cover. So I grab them. And as I'm doing that, it dawns on me that I have my freaking V8 energy drink in the tent with me, which is a delicious drink, but it's a huge no-no. You should never, ever have anything scented in your tent, not even water, because bears and big cats, they will sniff it out and then they will know that there's food in there. So now I'm freaking out because, like, what if it smells my drink? And I decide that I need to figure out what's out there. So I text Cole again and I'm like, hey, like, we are okay, but I'm still scared. Please come back. But I didn't want him flying down these off road, like they're gravel, but they're also dirt. And so I don't know about landslides and stuff like that and losing control. And I didn't want him flying down the mountain and then fly off the mountain, you know? So I just wanted him to know, like, we're alive, we're okay, but please hurry back. Like, I'm scared. The sooner the better. And I decide to start recording again on my phone and I stick my phone under the rain cover flap and I see a man crouching at our campsite. At first, I thought it was Cole because he's wearing this like rust colored shirt that Cole often wears. And for the life of me, I can't remember what he's wearing. But I realized quickly it's not him. And this guy bolts out of our sight and back to the road. He doesn't see me at all, but he runs like so fast. In hindsight, it was probably just to get back to his car and out of the rain, but I don't know. To me, he kind of looked scared. So I zip everything back up. I put my shoes on. I keep recording. I try to chug my drink as if that would help get rid of the smell of it or something. But I remind myself that our food and our gear are away from this tent and they're available for the bear way over on the other side of our site. I think I'm not good at measuring, but I don't know. It's like 2 or 3 car lengths away. So hopefully the bear would just chill over there or the big cat, whatever it is. I mean, I'm assuming not a big cat. I feel like I wouldn't hear. They're a lot more light on their feet, you know? But I don't hear anything over in the gear area. Like, I don't hear anything getting knocked over. I don't hear anything getting ruffled through. So I'm still convincing myself it's only a moose. And then I hear heavy footsteps again and more grunting and huffing. But now I can't tell if the sounds are up high or if they're down low towards the ground anymore. They're kind of all over the place. And I for sure still hear bear sounds. But I mean, I say for sure, but I'm still telling myself at the time that it's a moose because they're big. Obviously, they're going to make noises. They're heavy. And I don't know, but I'm starting to kind of not be able to convince myself it's just a moose. So back to texting frantically, I go to Cole and then I go back to recording. And I'm mad at myself at this point for not asking the man, hey, what's out there? But at the same time, I don't know what it is or where it is. And I didn't want to spook it and have it trample the tent or attack him or me or whatever, you know? So I'm forcing myself to calm down because I look at Holden, he's calm. And typically, if I'm nervous about anything, I'll look at my animals to see what they're doing because they can hear and smell things way better than we can. And I see that his ears are very perked, they are all the way to the top of his head. And he is sniffing the air, but his body language otherwise is calm. Like he's laying down, he's listening to me, he's not making noises. And then, as we're sitting there in the distance, I hear running, heavy running, and I hear a lot of feet, and they are headed right towards the tent. And I'm thinking, oh my God, oh my God, there's a stampede. And then within like a millisecond, it's like time slowed down for a millisecond, but it feels like a minute goes by. And I'm thinking how the tent, it's not that big. Moose are giants, and I don't know what colors moose see. We could look like nothing to them. So instinctually, I pull Holden into a ball and I curl myself over him in the middle of the tent. And thankfully, there was a tree in the middle front of our tent. So I figured they'd at least go around the tree. And so, you know, if we're in the middle, we would be less likely to be crushed, hopefully. Like if it ran at us, it would go around the tree and knock over the side of the tent. So the footprints, the stampede sound, it sounds like hooves at this point. So I know it's a moose. And it comes right at us. And as it's passing us, down low and up high, I hear growling and grunting. And the animals, so now I know there's multiple because they run on both sides of the tent and so close because I see the shadow. And this time, Holden lets out a little growl, and I hear one animal go towards the bushes and the other one goes towards the clearing. And I look at Holden, and my adrenaline is through the roof. A little something something about me, a little bit more. When I'm really scared like that, like to the point where I'm shaking, I laugh. Like I'll get the giggles. So I giggle and then I just whisper to him, that was scary, huh? And then he shakes it out just like he came in from the rain or something or got done with a bath. And he's fine. He's ready to leave the tent. He's ready for the day. But not me. I'm like, we are staying put, bud. Finally, like another 10 minutes goes by or so. So in total, the state of on-off fear, it's like maybe an hour-ish, maybe less. I'm not 100% sure. It felt like 5 hours, but finally, I hear Cole's squeaky brakes come down the drop. I hear him get out, and I figure I'm just going to wait for him to yell to me or something, because at this point, none of my texts, a couple of my texts had come through saying undelivered, but not all of them. And so I assume that he got at least one and that he knows that there's an animal. But he walks up to the tent all nonchalant. You guys hanging out in there? And I'm like, did you get my text? And he's like, no. So I open the tent, I grab Holden, I tell Cole, we got to get in the car now. And he's like, okay, I wanted to show you some of where I was exploring anyway. So let's go. Just oblivious to the horrors that I just endured. So we get moving. I'm telling him what happens. I'm shaking still. I'm like out of breath. And I'm still just trying to convince myself that it was just a moose all along. But then he says to me, I think I saw a bear print. And I had seen moose prints when I got out of the tent. So I'm like, oh, okay. So a moose and a bear. Great. So we get to the top of the mountain, like top-ish. I don't even know. I couldn't even pay attention to anything other than replaying what was happening to me, what had just happened to me. So at the top of the mountain, whatever, we get service, I guess. And so Cole looks it up and he sees that moose make that guttural sound that I heard when it was running right past the tent, oftentimes when charging or escaping predators. So I still don't know if the growl was a moose or a bear or both. And then also with Holden's growl, it was hard to like figure out what's what. But we drive back, we get back to the campsite. It's still downpouring. So I'm trying to find the prints of the bear that he said he saw, but it's really hard to see. Like I said, the ground is mostly pine, it's not really mud. So I can't find anything. And we decide we're not staying. I obviously don't want to be cold and wet plus paranoid that something will come back. Like, I'd rather be one or the other. Like, paranoid, as long as I'm warm and dry, okay, sure, maybe I'll get over it. Cold and wet, I'm going to get over it. That's how it was the night before. But together? No, 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 no. So, as we're packing up, the rain finally starts to stop and the ground is starting to dry up a little bit. And I see the bear footprint. It's like the size of my hand. I only find one, but it's the size of my hand, so likely a female. And then over by the tent where I heard all the crunching, I find moose poop. But later I find out that bears, they also love to crunch on the willows. So I don't know who was in there munching. Moose, bear, both. I mean, obviously the moose was in there. There's a bunch of poop and it was fresh, but luckily I don't find any big cat prints, so I'm good there. No mountain lion as far as I'm concerned. I did look up at the trees and I didn't see anything. So yeah, I wasn't attacked by anything, but man, oh man, guys, I have not been that scared since, I don't know, probably any like tornado warning that I've been in, but it was so scary. And I posted it on like every social media platform, hoping that it would somehow reach someone who was taking pictures, because I'm pretty sure that's what those people were doing. They were probably driving by, saw an animal out in the clearing, went down into our campsite because they saw that there was no car, so they figured no one was there, and just started taking pictures of whatever it was. But I would love to know for certain, because I still feel like, I don't know, unless I know for sure, I, it still freaks me out. I don't know. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I already know how dumb it was to stay alone, especially without bear spray or a horn or like any kind of weapon other than pepper spray that's expired, possibly, and a paperback book. So we will be buying those necessities before our next trip, and I will likely not stay back by myself ever again. And I'm just so proud of Holden. He's honestly, he's kind of a wild card with people. Like, he's either a precious, sweet baby angel boy, or he's the spawn of Satan and hates you for whatever reason. So I wasn't sure how he'd react with things happening outside the tent. especially if it's just me and him. He's a little bit more protective of me, but he stayed so calm until that very last little growl. He listened to me. Well, he listened by understanding where to go when I pointed to the tent in different areas, and I did the little sign to lay down. So I'm just so proud of him. And that's my I survived story. Hopefully, that's the scariest it'll ever be. But just in case, I decided to do some very basic survival research for my job. I work at the zoo, and sometimes we take folks out to Cheyenne Mountain to camp. I have not been trained yet for that, so I'll be getting trained on all things bear. But in the meantime, I figured I should at least know some basics because I'll probably be camping before then. Plus, we have wildlife in town all the time. It's mostly mule deer, but every once in a while, on Ring or Nextdoor or whatever, I see people posting about bears in their yards and coyotes and bobcats and mountain lions and whatever else is coming closer to town. And plus, I just figure maybe this will be helpful for you if you ever camp or if you're outside or whatever. And then, as a little treat, I do have some scary stories to tell you around the campfire. Again, you know, I have a complicated relationship with true crime, and some of these stories are true crime related. But before I get to that, I did some digging, and I want to walk you through what the experts and the actual data say, because some of the stuff that we all quote unquote know is right, some of it is right only in very specific situations, and some of it will actively get you killed. Okay. Wilderness safety advice is basically just like folklore with a ranger hat on. So I wanted to sort the folklore from the facts. So let's start with the big one first. If a bear attacks, play dead. We've all heard that, right? Well, here's the thing. This is real advice. It's also terrible advice because it depends entirely on which bear and what kind of attack. Basically, you have to read the fine print about bear attacks. The National Park Service breaks it down like this. If a grizzly, so a brown bear, but like a big brown bear, because yes, black bears can look brown too, but we just have grizzly bears and black bears. Grizzly bears, they're giant. They also have a hump on their back, and grizzly bears also have rounder ears, while black bears have taller, pointier ears, but hopefully you're never that close to have to like decide and look at the ears. Anyway, if a grizzly bear attacks you in a surprise or defensive situation, like you accidentally got between a mama and her cubs, you play dead. Flat out on your stomach, hands clasped behind your neck, legs spread apart so it's harder for the bear to flip you over. And if you have your backpack on, you want to keep your backpack on because it's basically your armor. You stay still and quiet. Hold your breath if you can. Don't make any wimping noises because the whole point is to convince the bear that you are not a threat to her or her babies. You also don't want to get up right after she leaves because she might still be watching. Also, unless you're in Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, or Washington, you don't really need to worry about grizzly bears. Unless someone has one illegally and it escapes, or it escapes from a zoo or something like that, you're probably not going to come across one. But black bears are much more common, especially here in Colorado. And if a black bear attacks you, you do not play dead. Ever. You fight back with everything you have. Punches, kicks, rocks, sticks, bear spray, your water bottle, whatever you have and can reach. You get it. You aim for the face, for their nose, their muzzle. If you can do directly on the nose, great. If you can escape to a car or a building, obviously you want to do that first. But if you can't, put your dukes up, baby. It is fight time. But there's also fine print on the fine print, all right? If any bear of any species attacks you in your tent at night or stalks you before attacking, you fight. You never play dead because a bear that comes to you like that isn't defending anything, all right? It's shopping. That is a predatory attack, and playing dead only makes you a convenient snack. So yeah, Obviously, I didn't look up polar bears. We don't have them around here, so I wasn't too worried. But reading that last part, the attacks you in your tent, and just thinking back to the gruffs that I was hearing the night before and the fact that it avoided our food and gear, like, you bet your britches I got shivers down my spine. Like, what if what I heard the night before was a bear? And so, what if she knew we were there? What if she was stalking us? It's not likely because she didn't, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe she didn't chase the moose, and maybe the moose chased her, and ultimately the moose saved us. Who's to say? But anyway, the data, it backs this up, by the way. There's a study of bear attacks in Yellowstone's backcountry from 1970 to 1994. And 80% of the people who fought back during those attacks, which in Yellowstone were almost all surprise grizzly encounters, were severely injured. So playing dead in that specific scenario, the surprise attack, not the hunting kind, it genuinely works. It's just that specific scenario kind of got sidebarred from all the advice over the decades. And now people think playing dead is just universal bear policy. But it's not. That's, with the wrong bear, you just become part of the menu. I've also heard this: if it's brown, get down. If it's black, fight back. And that's just if you happen across them, because stalkers should always get an ass whooping. So keep that little part in your back pocket next time you're out in the woods. And one more piece of bear folklore while we're at it. A lot of people think that bears can't run downhill. That's completely made up. Bears can run over 30 miles per hour, uphill, downhill, diagonally, and every wildlife agency will tell you the same thing. You cannot outrun a bear, and running can literally trigger a chase response. Also, black bears are excellent climbers, so the tree plan is just, you know, basically going to end up as a bear fight in a tree. Now for the moose tidbits. This part, when I was looking this up, this part actually shocked me a little bit because remember in my tent, my plan was just treat it like a bear, stay calm, don't run. Well, the official moose advice is run. Yeah, I know. I'm serious. I'm shocked too. I always understood the rule not to run. Do not run, only back away. But Alaska Fish and Game, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the National Park Service, basically all of them, they say to run. If a moose charges you, you run. And you want to put something solid between you and the moose: a tree, a boulder, a car. I don't know if the tent would have worked, but moose advice is basically the exact opposite of bear advice. And I think that's some pretty seriously dangerous knowledge distribution because we all got the bear memo, and nobody got the moose memo, or at least I never did, and no one told me otherwise. But it makes sense when you think about why each animal is coming at you. A bear chasing you, it might be predatory, so running makes you prey. It triggers that instinct to go after food or whatever, but a moose is never going to try to eat you. A moose charge is always defensive. It just wants you gone. So leaving works, and they usually won't chase you far, but if you can get a tree between you, they'll typically, break it off. Not the tree, their path. They're not going to keep going after you. Most moose charges are also actually just kind of bluffs. They're just a warning to, basically tell you to back up. But just don't wait around to find out. And just because I couldn't find anything that says moose don't eat people, it doesn't mean that it can never happen. All right? You never know. And if a moose does knock you down, you want to curl up into a ball, protect your head, and stay still until it leaves, which, my ancient DNA kicked in because that is exactly what I instinctively did in the tent with Holden. Nobody had ever told me that. I just curled into a ball in the middle of the tent. My little lizard brain apparently pre-read the Colorado Parks and Wildlife website, so that's great. Or I was attacked by a moose in a former life, maybe. Or I was a moose, maybe. Who's to say? And here are the warning signs that a moose is about to charge. So file these in your brain if you're ever camping where moose live, okay? Put these in your back pocket. You want to look for ears laid back, hackles up the neck, and hump. Like, when a cat or a dog is angry or scared, they get that little mohawk down their neck and back. Moose get that too. Also, you want to look for lip smacking or lip licking, something that dogs do as well. You also want to look for tossing its head like a horse. You also want to look for whale eyes, is what a lot of people call it, where they show the whites of their eyes. And I'm not kidding about this last one, okay? It's a little crazy, but sometimes they will also pee on their own back legs. So if you see any of those warning signs, you are way too close. Also, a good rule of thumb is if you put your thumb up, like arm's length straight out in front of you, close one eye. If you can still see the moose behind your thumb, any part of it at all, you're too close. Also, the thing about dogs that I remembered when we were in the tent, that's true. And it is really scary now to 100% know that's true because Holden's always coming camping with us. So I'm going to be extra on alert. But moose see dogs as wolves, and wolves are predators. Dogs are one of the most common triggers for moose attacks. So Holden staying quiet and calm was truly the best case scenario. Otherwise, yeah, we could have ended up crumpled up or dead. So I have a few more survival tips, I suppose. I'll try to do like rapid fire, but we'll see. So we've all heard this, right? Moss grows on the north side of trees so you can navigate by it. False. Moss grows where it's damp and shady, which is sometimes north, sometimes not. Depends on the climate and depends on the tree. If you follow the moss, you will confidently just walk in a circle, or you'll walk to nowhere if there's no moss growing on the tree. You're going to get more lost. You also might have heard the old saying, suck the venom out of a snake bite. We have rattlesnakes here. I heard that my whole life growing up. Please don't. The venom is in your tissue and your bloodstream within seconds. So cutting and sucking on a snakebite wound, it just makes the wound bigger and then it exposes your wound to everything living in your mouth, which I don't care how many times you brush your teeth, mouths have a lot of disgusting bacteria inside. Okay. So instead, you want to keep the limb still. You want to keep it below heart level if you can. And then you want to get to a hospital. So that's it. Like, just stay still, keep it below your heart, and get to a hospital or to a ranger station or something like that. Whatever is closest. And also easier said than done, but you want to keep your heart rate from speeding up. So you want to, like, if you can, trick yourself into thinking nothing's wrong and stay as calm as possible. Now, growing up in Wisconsin, I heard this next one a lot. Alcohol warms you up in the cold. Right? We've heard that, especially, going out on Water Street in our tank tops in February. Well, that's not quite right. It makes you feel warm because it dilates your blood vessels, which is exactly how it dumps your core heat faster. All right. Then we have the old rule to just rub frostbite in order to warm it up. However, frostbitten tissue is full of literal ice crystals. So rubbing it shreds your cells from the inside. Yikes and ouch. So instead, you just want to rewarm slowly. No friction, please. And then the one that I want everyone to actually remember because it applies to me directly and I knew better. And I think a lot of people don't think about this or think that even if you're at a busy campsite that it's not a big deal, or maybe you're somewhere where bears aren't as common, but if there are bears around, you really, really need to listen to this one. Do not keep anything scented in your tent. Not food, not drinks, not toothpaste, not your deodorant, lotion, nothing. Everything smellable should live far away from where you sleep. Better yet, if it's in a bear canister or a bear box or properly hung, if that's allowed where you are. Bears can rip open car doors, but if all you have is your car, keep your car far away from your tent and keep your stuff in there. So no more V8s in the tent, okay? Now I want to tell you where a lot of our modern bear policy actually comes from, because it's not just accumulated wisdom over time from a bunch of different sources. A lot of it actually traces back to one single night, and it is quite the haunting story. It is a true story, and it does involve real people dying. So, with my complicated relationship with true crime, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm just going to give you the facts to kind of explain, how did we get here? How do we get out? So, first, now we get to time travel. August 12th into August 13th, 1967, Glacier National Park, Montana. At this point, Glacier had been open since 1910, and in those 57 years, there had never been a single fatal grizzly attack in the park at all, like not a single one. And so that safety record kind of created this very casual culture around bears. The parks in that era treated bears as basically entertainment. Lodges would leave garbage out where bears would come and feed on it every evening, and people would just kind of gather and watch it like it was a show. Which also, that reminds me of another survival thing. If you live where there are bears or you're staying at a cabin, Airbnb, whatever, wait to put the garbage out until the morning. Anyway, at Granite Park Chalet, this rustic stone lodge up in the Continental Divide, bears fed on the chalet's garbage on basically a schedule, which that seems cute. It seems harmless. It seems helpful, right? What's wrong with feeding bears your scraps? A lot. And that night, two 19-year-old women in two different areas of the park, roughly 10 miles apart, were attacked by two different grizzly bears within hours of each other. Julie Helgeson was a college student working in the park for the summer. She and her friend, Roy Ducat, hiked up to Granite Park Chalet, and they slept under the stars near the campground, which happened to be close to the trail that bears would use to reach the chalet's garbage. In the early morning hours, a bear found them. Julie woke Roy and whispered that a bear was nearby and to just stay completely still. But the bear attacked them both anyway, and when it turned from Roy to Julie, he ran for help. She was found alive 400 feet away, but she sadly died due to her injuries at the chalet. Michelle Coons was also 19, working in a park gift shop for the summer. She and four friends camped at Trout Lake, and on the way in, another group literally warned them about a bear in the area, but they stayed anyway. And honestly, when you think about it, based on 57 years of park history with not really any issues with bears, or at least not any fatal issues with bears, why wouldn't they stay, you know? But an underweight, garbage conditioned bear came into their camp that evening and stole food. So they moved their sleeping bags to the lake shore and built a fire. Also, that same bear had reportedly chased some Girl Scouts prior to this night, and some say that the bear just didn't really seem quite right in general, but whatever. As they slept, the fire died down, and when the bear came back around 4 a.m., Michelle woke with a scream. Her friends escaped up the trees, and they waited 2 hours before running to the nearest ranger station to report the attack. However, Michelle's sleeping bag zipper had stuck, so she wasn't able to get out, and she was dragged 300 feet away before she was killed. So that's two bears, two 19-year-old girls, 10 miles apart, same night. The odds of that are so absurd that people at the time just started reaching for different explanations. Some people said the lightning storms made them uneasy. There are other cosmic explanations. But the writer, Jack Olson, who wrote the definitive book about it, he called it right. The coincidence was the timing. The cause, however, was not a coincidence at all. Both bears had been conditioned for years to associate humans with food because humans kept feeding them both on purpose and by neglect. And that night basically just changed everything, like truly. Glacier and eventually the whole park system shut down the garbage feeding. They instituted the pack in, pack out rules. They started aggressively separating bears from human food. And then they built the modern bear management playbook, the food storage rules, the bear boxes. Maybe you've seen the signs that say, like, a fed bear is a dead bear, all of that. And it's part of the same era of rethinking wildlife that also gave us the Endangered Species Act a few years later. So when I say the food rules aren't a suggestion, I mean it. All right? The story is your receipt, it's the proof. The advice that sounds like hoopla, hang your food, nothing scented in the tent, never feed wildlife, literally are rules written in the worst possible ink, aka blood, literally. All right, so now you know some basic survival skills, tips and tricks, whatever. You now know of a real story that created bear safety today. So now I want you to imagine it's nice and dark outside. Maybe there's some crickets. Maybe the moon is full. The stars are sparkling. You're sitting around a campfire, but it's just down to some burning embers. It's not a lot of light. It's nice and dark. And I hope you have a blanket, maybe a little flashlight, because to close this episode, I wanted to tell you about the people who went into the woods and didn't come back, and about the guy who basically built an entire universe around them. This is Missing 411. If you've spent any time in the creepy corners of the internet, you've probably heard this phrase. Missing 411 is a series of books and later documentaries by a man named David Paulides. David spent about 20 years in law enforcement in San Jose, California, including time on SWAT. After he retired, his first big investigative passion project was not missing people. Get this, it was Bigfoot. He ran an organization called North American Bigfoot Search and was involved in a very contested Sasquatch DNA project. File that away. We'll come back to it later. The way David tells it, his pivot happened when he was visiting a national park, and he says a park ranger came to him off the record and told him something strange was going on with the number of people disappearing in the parks, and that the government wasn't tracking it. David starts pulling cases, and starting in the early 2010s, he begins publishing book after book after book of these disappearances, over 1,000 cases at this point, under the Missing 411 banner. David claims the cases all fit a profile, a weirdly specific, hair-raising profile. You ready to get the goosies? The profile says that people vanish in clusters in specific geographic hotspots. They disappear near boulder fields and near water. Berry pickers go missing at strange rates. When the missing are found, they're often missing their shoes, or their clothes are removed or turned inside out. Tracking dogs come to the spot where the person was last seen, sniff, sniff, sniff around, and then just quit. No scent, no trail. A severe storm often rolls in right after the person vanishes, wrecking the search. Bodies turn up in areas that were already searched, sometimes multiple times. Small children are found, like impossible distances away, uphill over terrain that adults struggle with. And David claims the missing skew towards certain types are the very young, the very old, people with disabilities, and, this is real, people with high intelligence and German ancestry. I know, the German thing. We'll get there. Now, in the books, David is officially agnostic. He never says what he thinks is taking people. He just lays out cases and lets the silence do the work, which, credit where credit is due, that's extremely effective storytelling. His fans just kind of, fill in the blanks with everything from Bigfoot portals to Fae folklore. And I'll admit, inside out clothes, berries, water, storms, that's straight out of centuries-old stories about people taken by the fair folk. So whether that means something spooky happened, or confirmation bias, or it just means humans have always gone missing in the same kinds of places and told stories about it. Well, yeah, campfire's still burning. And since we're on the subject of what people say is out there, let me tell you the oldest version of the story, because missing 411 is not the first time humans looked at the deep woods and decided something in there takes people. So long before national parks existed, the Ojibwe, the Cree, and other Algonquian speaking nations across the Great Lakes and the Canadian North told stories about the wendigo. Some people say wendigo or wendigo. It's kind of all over the place. I saw more videos say wendigo and wendigo, so I'll probably alternate between them, sorry. But also, I heard that oftentimes elders and storytellers will purposely mispronounce it because saying its true name could draw it closer to you. And also, just a reminder, this is a very real, living spiritual tradition. It's not just monster content, okay? So I'm going to try to tell it the way the older stories actually tell it, which honestly is a lot scarier than the movie version anyway. So forget the deer skull and the antlers. That's a Hollywood invention, pretty much entirely a modern media remix. In the older stories, the Wendigo is a spirit of winter and starvation. When it takes a physical form, it's described as gaunt to the point of emaciation. It has gray, desiccated skin pulled tight over its bones, sunken eyes, and in many tellings, a heart made of ice. Basically, how my ex would describe me, but on anyway. In some stories, it's a giant. It's 15 feet tall and it can never be full. The more it eats, the bigger it grows. So its hunger grows with it. It is literally starvation walking. There are two ways to meet one. It can hurt you, or, and this is a scarier version, if you ask me, you can become one. In the traditions, a person who turns to cannibalism or who is consumed by greed and selfishness can be possessed or transformed. These are communities that survived brutal winters where famine was a very real, recurring threat. So basically, the Wendigo is kind of this boundary stone or cautionary tale that no matter how hungry you get, there are things you do not do, and you do not abandon your community to save yourself. Anthropologists read it as one of the most effective cautionary tales basically ever created. The earliest written mention by Europeans is from a Jesuit missionary's report in 1639, and the stories were already old by 1639, so ancient story. And there is a true crime footnote here. In the winter of 1878 into 1879, a Cree trapper in what's now Alberta, a man called Swift Runner, took his family into the bush for the trapping season. In the spring, only he walked out, claiming that they had starved. Only he looked very well fed. The story unraveled, police found the remains at his camp, and he confessed to killing and eating his family while insisting a Wendigo spirit had possessed him and driven him to do it. But get this, so there's a pretty crucial detail that kind of destroys any survival justification, if he had any, aside from the Wendigo. There was a Hudson's Bay Company post with emergency supplies just 25 miles away, and he never went there. So he was hanged at Fort Saskatchewan in December of 1879, which was the first legal execution in Alberta's history. Cases like his are why early psychiatrists coined the term wendigo psychosis as a so-called culture-bound syndrome, which modern researchers have argued about basically ever since, with many saying the diagnosis says more about the outsiders doing the labeling than anything else. Either way, the fear underneath the story was never fiction. Moo! Spooky. So, Hold that thought. All right, for centuries, the story humans told about the wilderness was that it contains hunger with your name on it. And I have two real cases that basically built the modern version of this story. So, more time traveling. All right, are you ready? Father's Day weekend, June 1969, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Tennessee. The Martin family of Knoxville does their annual camping trip. 6-year-old Dennis, his 9-year-old brother, their dad Bill, and their grandfather. It's Dennis's first overnight trip, and his 7th birthday is 6 days away. On the afternoon of June 14th, they're at a grassy clearing called Spence Field, right on the Appalachian Trail. The boys, Dennis's brother plus 2 boys from another family, hatch a classic kid plan. Sneak into the trees, circle around, and jump out and scare the adults. It's so fun, right? Dennis in his bright red shirt, he goes one way, the other boys go the other way. Dad literally watches him walk into the tree line. The other boys jump out laughing. Dennis does not. It had been maybe 3 to 5 minutes. His dad starts calling. Nothing. He runs a mile down the Appalachian Trail looking for Dennis. Nothing. And then, because the Smokies have a flair for being dramatic, a massive thunderstorm rolls in that night and dumps rain on the mountain, washing out any tracks and basically fudging up the search before it can even start. What follows becomes the largest search in the park's history. It swells to around 1,400 people, covering a 56 square mile area. Park rangers, firefighters, Boy Scouts, and at the family's request, Green Berets. The family also put up a $5,000 reward, which is already a lot, but back in 1969, that's almost serious money. And they found nothing. Not a shoe, not the red shirt, nothing confirmed ever. That same afternoon, several miles away, a family reported hearing what they described as a sickening scream in the woods, and minutes later saw a rough, unkempt man moving through the trees. The FBI looked at it. It was never connected, never explained, also never ruled out. The park's own internal opinion was that Dennis probably succumbed somewhere within a few miles of where he vanished, but no trace was ever confirmed, and the case is still technically open. Dennis would be in his 60s now. So for David, the missing 411 writer, this is the foundational case. You've got small child, vanished in minutes in front of his family, storm immediately after, massive search, finds nothing. And then there's the one that happened basically in my old backyard. I didn't even know about this. And this one is, again, it's real. It's very sad. So on October 2nd, 1999, Big South Trail in the Comanche Peak Wilderness area of Roosevelt National Forest in Colorado. Jaryd Atadero is 3 years old. His dad, Alan, owns a little riverside resort in Poudre Canyon. And that day, a Christian singles group staying at the resort takes a day hike and brings Jaryd and his 6-year-old sister along. Although he's a toddler, Jaryd is a runner. High energy, fearless, always out front. On the trail, he runs ahead of the group and he stops to chat with some fishermen. They ask him where his parents are and tell him that he should wait. He doesn't. And somewhere in the next stretch of minutes, with a group of adults right behind him on a single trail along a river, Jaryd vanishes. The search is one of the largest in Larimer County history. 200 plus searchers, dog teams, divers in the river, a helicopter that literally crashed during the search. Everyone survived, but that's the level of chaos going on. All that and nothing for 3.5 years. No answers. Then in May 2003, 2 hikers scrambling well off the trail find clothing. It's Jaryd's. And here's why this case is every missing 411 book. His remains and clothes were found roughly 500 feet up the steep slope above the trail. His pants were inside out, his shoes were found in remarkably good condition, and the medical examiners could not determine a cause of death. So officially, to this day, there isn't one. His skull showed no confirmed predator damage, so just Nothing but unanswered questions, unfortunately for his family. There are some theories that aren't totally out of left field, though. A mountain lion could explain the distance and the elevation, and honestly, a lion attack was kind of always the leading theory. Scavengers and 3.5 years of weather could also explain the scattered remains. Clothes come off strangely in decomposition and they get moved by animals. But a 3-year-old, 500 feet up a slope that adults struggle to climb with shoes that barely look worn. Every explanation has a piece that doesn't quite click into place, and those gaps, that's where missing 411 comes in. I do want to tell you what Jaryd's dad did with his grief, though, because it's one of those things where someone makes something good out of something heartbreaking and horrible. Alan Atadero spent the following years fighting for child safety, and he was part of the push that helped bring the Amber Alert program to Colorado in 2002. That's insane. It's insane that we didn't have it before that. So, back when I was just a little kid, back here living in Colorado, camping, oh, there was no Amber Alert. That's scary. That's scary to think about. Okay, one more story. This one's short, and it's the most famous vanishing in American history. So you may have heard it, or you may have heard an iteration of it. We're going to time travel even further, all right? September 23rd, 1880. We're on a farm outside Gallatin, Tennessee. A farmer named David Lang walks out across this pasture in the middle of the afternoon. His wife is on the porch. His 2 kids, Sarah and George, are playing in the yard. A family friend, a local judge, is pulling up the lane in his buggy with another witness beside him. Lang sees the buggy, turns, and waves, and mid-step, in full view of 5 people in an open field with no trees, no holes, and no cover, David Lang vanishes. Doesn't run, doesn't fall, just vanishes like a candle. Poof. Out. They search the field on hands and knees. Nothing. And in the months after, a circle of dead grass forms on the exact spot. And the story goes that his children could stand inside it and hear their father's voice, faint and far away, calling for help, growing weaker until one day it stopped. And that story had been printed as fact in paranormal books for decades. It has witnesses, a named town, a date, a judge. It has everything. It also never happened at all. Ugh, I know. I hate to break it to you. The earliest known telling is from 1953 when a mystery novelist named Stuart Palmer published it in Fate magazine, claiming he got it from Lang's daughter. Researchers went digging and found there was no David Lang in the census records, and the farm in question belonged to a different family entirely. Palmer had almost certainly reworked an 1893 short story by Ambrose Bierce called, I kid you not, The Difficulty of Crossing a Field, which was about a plantation owner who vanishes in front of witnesses. Fate magazine itself ran a retraction in 1977. So the retraction at this point is 50 years old, but honestly, I bet the story is being told as a true story around a campfire somewhere this weekend because a perfect story does not care about a retraction. So keep that little story in your back pocket for the next time you're around a fire and spooky stories are being shared. Do with it what you will. Now let me pass the flashlight to the skeptics, okay? I said I would. Remember the profile points of all these stories? I'm backtracking to the missing 411 stories here. Here's the thing about almost every single one of them. You ready? They describe how dying in the wilderness normally works. People vanish near water and boulder fields. Water and rock are where people fall. They're also, along with berry patches, exactly where people go. You can't disappear from a place you never visit. The clothes and the missing shoes? There's a documented, deeply eerie phenomenon in severe hypothermia called paradoxical undressing. As your body loses the fight, the muscles clamping your blood vessels shut give out. Warm blood floods back to your skin, and your dying, confused brain reads it as burning up. So people freezing to death take their clothes off. In one forensic study of 69 hypothermia deaths, a quarter of the victims had undressed. And it gets stranger. Many then do something called terminal burrowing, where the brainstem kicks into an ancient animal hibernation type protective mode, and the person, crawls into the smallest space they can find. So, under logs and rock crevices, researchers found bodies wedged into spots that looked so much like hidden crime scenes that police initially suspected murder. So, undressed bodies tucked into places searchers already walked past. That's physiology. And I would argue it's scarier than a mystical portal. And then the dogs losing scent, rain, wind, running water, and time, they all destroy scent trails. And the smoky storm that hit after Dennis Martin vanished is exactly the kind of event that ends a dog's trail. No mystery required there. And then the storms themselves, the ones that always seem to happen after someone goes missing. Sudden severe weather is a pattern attached to mountains. Seriously, there's a very common saying here in Colorado, and I'm sure it's common in other places too, but I hear it so much here. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. The weather up in the mountains is even crazier. It's why it's a good rule of thumb, even in July, to bring a winter coat camping. And it's often why the person died and why the search failed. Kids found impossibly far away uphill. Search and rescue research has found that small children are terrible at being lost in exactly this way. They don't reason like adults, they don't stay put, they follow whatever pulls them, which is why it's very important to teach that to your kids. If they're lost, stay put. And also, you as an adult, if you're lost, stay put. Okay. And kids fit through and under terrain that adults have to typically go around. So, toddlers have been found alive, like shocking distances away from where they vanished. And then the whole high IQ German thing. This is where a data scientist named Kyle Paulides comes in. He did the statistical dig into missing 411 and published it through Skeptical Inquirer. I can't say that word. And his conclusion was basically there's no there there. The disappearances aren't statistically unusual for the number of people using these lands. The criteria for what counts as a quote unquote missing 411 case are very vague and very stretchy. And some of the missing were actually found. And David has never released his underlying data for anyone to check. So when your pattern includes intelligent, German ancestry, near water, near rocks, bad weather, and young or old, you've basically described an enormous portion of everyone who visits a national park. And a profile that broad is honestly basically just a horoscope. Like anyone could fit into that profile. And remember the Bigfoot thing I told you to file away? I know, I told you to hold on to a lot. David came to this topic from cryptozoology, and his later missing 411 work drifted toward a UFO documentary, which doesn't automatically make the cases fake. The cases are real cases, they're real families, real grief. It just kind of tells you which direction the storyteller was always facing. But I mean, not to be this person, but like UFOs, they're maybe not nothing, but I don't know. That's the true crime ick that I get, turning a true crime story, real people, real tragedy into something that is a little bit more like I don't want to say fake because we're hearing about UFOs all the time, but you know what I mean, right? Here's the twist though. After all that debunking, David is actually right about one thing, and it's basically the thing that honestly it deserves way more attention than portals or mystical sci-fi things, whatever's going on there. And that thing is, this one's this one's scary, guys. The thing is, there is no comprehensive centralized public database of people who go missing on federal public lands. Still, in 2026. Can you believe that? The National Park Service runs thousands of search and rescue operations every year, and the overwhelming majority end with the person found, which is great. But when someone isn't found, the record keeping gets murky, and it gets murky fast. Cases get handled by whichever mix of park staff, county sheriff, and state agency is involved. Records live in different systems or nowhere at all, and there's no requirement that unresolved cases even end up in NamUs, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NAMUS. Maybe it's NamUs, but I always pronounce it NamUs. Anyway, it's the National Missing Persons Database. The NPS public cold case list has hovered at a couple dozen names, which almost everyone agrees undercounts reality. The estimate that gets cited often, including by United States senators, is that at least 1,600 people are missing on public lands, which that's not a couple dozen. That's a lot. But unfortunately, nobody actually truly knows because nobody's required to count. So we're talking about roughly 640 million acres of federal land. There are members of Congress from both parties who have been trying to pass something called the Trace Act to force these cases into NamUs and make the government report the numbers annually and accurately. Maybe you're wondering, why should I care about this? Well, if someone you love vanishes on a trail, the thoroughness of the count, the search, and the long-term record can depend a lot on which patch of land they were standing on and which county it sits in. And honestly, that's kind of the scandal here, right? A filing system that fails to count people. The Wendigo, the Fae, David Lang's Circle of Dead Grass, those are the stories we invented because nobody wrote it down is somehow the one explanation we refuse to accept. We don't want to accept that a system is failing. Eek! I always talk about systems failing. And that's the thing about Missing 411 that I keep thinking back to. The mystery got a conspiracy universe, books, and at least 3 documentaries, probably way more. The database problem got a Senate bill that keeps not passing. We are, as a species, so much better at fearing a monster than just fixing or even just doing the paperwork. All right, so the fire's out. It's time to head to our tents. Here's what I want you to take with you into the woods next time you're out and about. Sorry to be a neggy bitch podcaster, but seriously, okay? Tell someone where you're going. Actually do it. The specific trail, not just saying, hey, I'm going to the mountains. Carry bear spray and keep it reachable, not buried in your backpack, not left in the car, and nothing scented in your tent. Okay? No V8s. You want to fight a black bear, play dead for a defensive grizzly, and then fight anything that comes into your tent. And you also want to run from a moose. And if you hear something huffing outside your tent walls, apparently what you do is curl into a ball around your dog and text your boyfriend 15, 20, 30 times. Maybe. I don't know. It worked for me. Whatever. And that's the episode, friends. If you have a wildlife encounter story or a disappearance case that you think I should dig into, or you just want to tell me some crazy ass story, DM me. You can find the show on Instagram at indistinct.pod or me at Eliza Hollister. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It really does help more people find the show, and it takes 30 seconds, and it's the equivalent of giving me $5,000. Not really. I don't get any money out of it, but it feels like somebody's giving me $5,000. And next week, if I finish my book, we're getting into a theory or multiple theories that I've been sitting on for a while. Bring snacks. Maybe you won't want to eat after I go through the theories. I don't know. We'll see. We'll chat next week. Love ya. Love you. Bye.